I've been living on a good life, living like it won't stop, giving you the best of me, but now I'm feeling like it's all gone. Baby, where'd it go wrong? I thought we were meant to be.
Good morning and happy Tuesday. Well, for me it's Tuesday. I don't know what day of the week it is for you. I'm making some breakfast right now. It sounds bizarre, but I'm making liver mush. If you're not from the South, you probably don't know what this is, but like liver pudding is what it's also called. It's pork livers, pork sausage, and like cornmeal, so like grits all together, and you like fry it up with a little bit of butter, and it's probably the one way that I can eat something like liver centered and really enjoy it. It doesn't taste like it just tastes like sausage, but I'm making this for breakfast. I'm gonna make a little bit of coffee, and then we're gonna head to the gym. I'm just taking you through a day in my reverse diet today, as we're coming out of our 3-month deficit, a 3-month cut, how we are transitioning essentially back to maintenance calories, trying to avoid like shocking the system in doing so, and also how I'm working on like healthy like mental patterns about all of this. So anyways, I'm gonna eat some breakfast, we're gonna go to the gym, and I'll see you in a little bit. Let me just say that as weird as it sounds, this is like the perfect pre-workout breakfast because you have all the B vitamins from the liver and then caffeine in the coffee, and it's like pre-workout but healthy and whole foods and more nourishing, and of course protein, carbs, and fat all in that liver mush. I'm just back from the gym and finishing up my little second breakfast, we'll say, a classic Sally snack, just some Greek yogurt with honey and strawberries. We had a really awesome push workout, and I was actually able to hit a PR on my bench press, which I feel very excited about. It was just like 80 pounds I did 2 complete sets of 5, and then I got another set of 4, which is a rep PR, I suppose, for that weight. So anyways, feeling good about that, getting fueled back up. And I want to show you, I just got in the mail these bras from Wear Lively. I have the hardest time with finding bras that, you know, do what I need them to do, but are also comfortable, because I'm at the point where I'm just like, I hate wearing underwire bras, but I want them to look cute. And so I found Wear Lively. This isn't sponsored or anything, but they have some great bralettes that still have support and are cut for, you know, different clothing appropriately. So I'll show you what I got, and I guess down the road I can let you know what I think about it. I just realized the styles are not listed on the tags, but this is not padded, which honestly is my favorite kind. It's just kind of a stretchy, again, bralette situation, but it looks like it's going to be quite supportive at the same time. Cute detailing right here. I'm probably going to throw this one on today under a tank top, hoping that will look good. This, I think, is their deep V. No underwire. It is padded, but it's not like thick or anything. Bra, I guess it's not technically a bralette, but I'm excited for this one, hopefully with like lower cut in the back shirts, because it's supposed to be great for that. And then lastly, this one was on clearance. I literally got it for like 19 bucks, but it is their like lace bralette, which again, I'm hoping will work nicely with tank tops throughout the summer. And it's also, I don't know, cute, even if like a little bit is peeking out, but not that I usually wear clothing like that, but you know, good to have different options. So that's what I got from Wear Lively. I am also going to take here my magnesium glycinate, which I take every single day. Glycinate is just a really bioavailable form of magnesium, and of course that's going to help with muscle recovery, but also magnesium, of course, is the first mineral that we burn through in a stress response. So I think it's really important to get enough of this, especially since there's not a ton in the soil due to soil degradation. I'm gonna quickly finish up my little yogurt bowl, and then I actually need to blast out the door because I'm gonna go chop all my hair off, and I'll see you on the other side, at which point we're gonna sit down and have a chat about what specifically a reverse diet is and what that looks like in Samuel and my case. See you soon. Okay, you can come in whenever.
Can I come in?
Yeah. Do I look European?
I don't know if you look European, but you look cute.
Yeah?
Yeah.
You actually like it?
It's very different.
It's very different. I love it. I don't usually love a haircut like right after I leave,
Yeah.
but it feels so light. It'll look less rounded, I know, like after I wash it myself, because they do like the dry brush on it.
Hmm.
And I feel like that always looks funny in my hair. Sorry, I know it's very different. I like it so much. Thanks. Well, officially, y'all, here's the end result. Definitely shorter than it was, as was the goal. My hair does this funny thing anytime it gets cut because they like blow it out with a brush. I feel like it always falls differently than when I just wash it myself and let it dry naturally. So it's like more rounded than I know it will be when I wash it myself. But I think this is like the happiest I've ever been leaving the salon with how it looks, because I don't usually like how it looks after that. But I'm just really excited about this. It's gonna feel great for summer. Here's the back. Was going for something very chic and light, and I don't know, y'all can let me know what you think, but I definitely surprised Samuel it's shorter than he thought it was going to be. That being said, while I was out, I grabbed a coffee at my favorite coffee shop here in Wilmington, the Roastery by Vigilant Hope. I got it's called a Wildflower there, but it's just a honey lavender latte, and I'm not huge on sweet coffee. I think I've shared that before. There are some recipes that I really like, but for the most part, I'm just like a kind of a purist, but this is one of those drinks that steals my heart. I could have it all the time and I don't think I would ever get sick of it. But got one of those and going to eat some lunch in a second, but first Samuel's gonna come in and we're gonna talk, like I said, about what a reverse diet is and what ours looks like, and then we will get on with the rest of the day. We've brought in the big guns. I feel like Samuel can do a better job of explaining what a reverse diet is, at least generally, and like why it applies than I can, so take it away.
Okay, so the theory behind a reverse diet is basically, I was going to say that it's a diet in reverse, but that's extremely unhelpful. But basically, the same way that you don't want to cut your calories drastically at the beginning of a diet, you also don't want to raise them drastically at the end. And it has to do with primarily concern for metabolic health, and that will be affected to a greater or lesser degree on the individual level, depending on essentially how elastic your metabolism is and how low you cut your calories or how long you were in a deficit for. But essentially the theory is that when you are coming out of a calorie deficit, you should gradually increase your calories rather than just returning straight to maintenance or going straight into a slight surplus or whatever your plan after the cut is. Now, in our case, we are young, have pretty elastic metabolisms, and we also didn't have our calories super low or for a super long time. But if you compare it to, say, like a bodybuilder on competition prep who is achieving extremely low levels of body fat and typically is on very, very low calories toward the end of the cut, they are going to have a greater metabolic impact. And so they are going to need to be more gradual in their return to maintenance, so to speak. A lot of times the recommended number is like 5% calorie increase per week, but we are basically going up to close to maintenance, just a slight deficit for a week and then essentially returning to maintenance. Basically, there are two factors to consider with a reverse diet. You can cut this up,
Yeah.
however, because I don't. It's just kind of like word salad.
I feel like it sounds really good.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
So essentially there are two factors to consider with a reverse diet, or two reasons to continue to track and to raise your calories gradually or to like a just below maintenance or a maintenance level prior to going back to an intuitive method of eating or whatever. Essentially there's a psychological component and there's a physiological component, and the two can be interrelated at the hormonal level. And what I mean by that is the psychological effect is you've been restricting your calories, and so coming out of a deficit, you either are going to probably eat too much, that's more likely, or you might eat too little, either because you are used to eating less or you're not used to feeling as full as you're going to feel. But of course, the more common thing that happens is people rebound and they feel hungry and they have been controlling their portions artificially rather than intuitively, and then they go back to intuitive eating, and it's just like everything goes haywire. The physiological component is essentially having to do with metabolic adaptation, which essentially is the idea that your body lowers your metabolic rate to compensate for reduced calories, which is the reason you don't cut your calories super low at the beginning of a diet. Our bodies are adaptive. Our bodies adapt to stress, and I guess because of our history as agrarians and hunter-gatherers or whatever, our body's adaptive response to a lack of food is to attempt to store body fat or at least reduce the metabolic rate. And lack of food is perceived by the body as a stress. It is perceived by the body as a negative. And so our bodies adapt to training by getting stronger. Our bodies adapt to lack of food by needing less food, which is great if you are, if you don't know where your next meal is coming from. But in the modern age where we have an abundance of food, it makes things more difficult. And so it's almost like, by analogy, it's almost like you have to kind of convince your body that it is okay to burn the extra calories that you are now giving it. Whereas if you were to go straight out of a deficit, a big deficit, into maintenance or a surplus, then your body naturally is going to try to store as much as it can. And then the psychological and the physiological can interact with each other hormonally, because a lack of body fat lowers your leptin levels, which makes you feel less full, and it raises your ghrelin levels, which makes you feel more hungry, and less aware of when you are filling up. So essentially, your body is trying to get you to eat more. Once you're eating, it's trying to get you to not stop eating, so it becomes difficult to eat intuitively. And then on top of that, ghrelin has also been shown in studies to promote fat storage. So all things considered, the gradual adding in of calories accomplishes three things. One, it regulates your hormone levels and allows leptin and ghrelin and their associated hormones to return to normal levels. The second thing that it does is it keeps you accountable to eat the amount that you should be eating, whether that's, whether you struggle with eating enough or you struggle with eating too much, as is more common. And then the third thing that it does is it allows you to rehabilitate your metabolism if you've been in a deficit for a long time. And the closer you get to maintenance over time, the more normalized things will be, the easier it will be, and you can safely return to maintenance levels, baseline levels, and typically intuitive eating. I mean, that's the kind of the end goal.
Yeah.
You end up being able to eat normally, trust your hunger cues, etc.
It's a 10 out of 10 explanation. I could not explain it that well. But this applies also to people maybe who haven't necessarily been deliberately in a cut, but if you are someone who has kind of dieted for a long time, or if your metabolism is shot, like if you're one of those people who you feel like you're eating 1,300 calories a day and you're still putting on weight, I've talked about that in a previous Q&A, but that's probably an indication that we don't need to be worried about weight gain at that time, but also we could be strategically reverse dieting. I think movement's a big part of that, obviously accounting for stress levels in the body, but anyways, reverse dieting can be used to actually bring up your metabolic rate. And if you guys are interested in more of this, there's a woman named Stephanie Buttermore. She's very much in the just like fitness. She used to be a bodybuilder, but very much in the fitness space specifically. She went through a process that she called going all in. She had like the most insane appetite of anyone, especially any woman I have ever seen. And she went through this process of just eating until she was satiated, and she ultimately gained a bunch of weight, but her hormone levels leveled out and she lost the weight. And that's a really simplified explanation, but if you're interested in more of the science behind this, especially in extreme cases, I'll link her channel below, and I think that's definitely worth checking out. But like Samuel said, we're doing this very, very moderately since we were not at some crazy deficit for a prolonged period of time. This week I'm tracking about 200 to 250 calories below maintenance. And are you doing about the same?
Somewhere in there. I mean, my metabolic rate is probably, it's hard for me to know exactly. That's the other thing. It's hard to know exactly what your metabolic rate is after a cut, because your maintenance, like if you put it in a TDEE calculator, first of all, it's going to vary person to person anyway. And that's why trial and error with those kinds of calculators is necessary. But on top of that, if you put it in the calculator before you started your cut, especially like in my case, if I'm coming off of a bulk or whatever, like high calories, my metabolism is at an all-time high. My metabolism is not going to be the same after the cut. So even if I just went straight back to maintenance, I wouldn't know. So anyway, I'm at about 300-ish, 300 to 400 calories under what my maintenance was before, 12 pounds heavier coming out of a bulk. But I don't exactly know how it relates to my maintenance now.
Yeah.
I think the long and short of it is, and most of us have heard of yo-yo dieting, but the idea with yo-yo dieting is that you're like going between high and low, and your body weight is like a yo-yo going up and down, and body fat levels, hormone levels, etc. And we know, because it's kind of come out in the media or whatever, that like yo-yoing your metabolism and hormones is not good for you. Who would have thought? But the degree to which the yo-yo swings, or like the size of that pendulum swing, is determined by essentially how big was your deficit and how long were you in it. Or more precisely, like how much does your metabolism need to be rehabilitated, which is affected by the length and severity of the cut. And so that's why reverse dieting is important coming out of a cut, but can also be useful for folks that have severely damaged metabolisms from previous yo-yo dieting, because instead of yanking your body out of whatever metabolic state it's currently in and putting it in some other state, you gradually introduce change and allow your body to adapt at a natural rate.
And as y'all have heard before, when it comes to anything we're doing, like any diet and lifestyle changes, while I'm totally with you, it's like I want to do it all right now, that usually messes us up. Like, even if it's a good thing that you're doing, if you do it all right away, you'll usually end up worse off, at least for a little while. So yeah, thank you, Samuel. Okay. I'm gonna go eat some lunch, and we have work to do. I'm gonna braise some pork for supper, and we're gonna bake chocolate chip cookies for a small group we have later tonight. For lunch, I have some cauliflower fried rice. Now, y'all know I am all about the carbs. Carbs are super important. That's not why we used cauliflower. I just love how it is a way to get so many vegetables into your system, and it tastes really good. And I'll just have some carbs on the side, or honestly, in the case of today, I drank that coffee ahead of time, which had a bunch of carbohydrates in it. So I'm probably set in that regard for the time being. But we've got our riced cauliflower, peas, carrots. There's some peanut butter in here. There's soy sauce, of course, fish sauce, ginger, garlic, all that good stuff. So it's a peanutty fried rice and chicken thighs. And then after I eat that, I'm going to get started on dinner because, again, we have this small group tonight, so I just want this ready to go so I don't have to worry about it. But got a Boston butt here, pasture raised, and I've got some homemade chicken broth, and I've got some garlic cloves. I'm just going to do it in the Instant Pot. We're going to sear the Boston butt and throw in the garlic, throw in the chicken broth, some other seasoning probably, and that'll be supper with some potatoes and either an arugula salad or some wilted kale. And then I'm also, like I said, going to make some chocolate chip cookies for tonight, which I'm so excited for. If you're not putting flaky salt on your cookies, you are doing it wrong. Okay, the cookies are out of the oven and they are so tasty. It is the recipe for sourdough chocolate chip cookies from Little Spoon Farm. I prepared the dough last night and I stuck it in the fridge overnight so that it could ferment. And all that does is it helps to make the flour more digestible, and it also helps to remove some of the anti-nutrients, as we might refer to them, protective mechanisms in a plant that interfere with our ability to absorb certain nutrients in the grain. It's very common in like grains and legumes in particular, also relevant when it comes to like cruciferous vegetables, and that's why proper preparation really is key. So Especially if you're someone who has difficulty digesting wheat or grains as a whole, you might try fermenting or soaking or sprouting those grains and see if that makes a difference. I know that it does for a lot of people, and of course there's a difference there between having food intolerance versus having something like celiac. So tread carefully, use your best judgment when it comes to that kind of thing. But I wanted to say about that cauliflower fried rice. It is so filling. In that one serving that you saw, it is like 55 protein, I think it's about 20 fat, and it's like 15 carbs. So of course want to add in some more carbs on the side, at least for me. That is way lower carb than is going to be ideal for me at one meal. But I only finished about 3/4 of it, and I'm saving the remainder for a snack in a little bit. And I thought this was a good place to just talk about satiety and transitioning again back to maintenance calories. Samuel, a while back, earlier on in the video, was talking about how a lot of people will be absolutely ravenous as they start increasing their calories. But the flip side of that is you also want to make sure you're just eating enough. And for me, I'm feeling like that's what's more relevant. I am one who has always had a pretty intense appetite, and my maintenance calories are pretty high. Like at the lowest point in the cut, I was down to 1,890 calories, and that was a 750 calorie deficit for me. That was the point at which, and I'll talk more about this in the cut reveal video, or I haven't recorded that yet, but you're gonna see it before this one. That was the point where I was like, okay, this is too far. I am so hungry. And it just shocks me that like there are a lot of women who eating like 1,800 calories a day is normal for them, which it just shows how different our bodies all are. That was like so little for me. Anyways, because I was eating at a notable deficit for a period of weeks, I was used to finishing a meal, and yes, I was making sure I felt satiated, but I wasn't really feeling full, is what I would say. And so it was easy for me, I think, to lose touch of what it feels like to eat at maintenance. And my inclination, I have noticed over the last few days, is actually to eat less food than I need. I also noticed that during a trip that we were on, well, we weren't tracking, but just kind of eating based on how we were feeling. And my inclination was to actually eat less calories than I needed. And so it's really helpful to me to track this week, and then also into at least next week, but potentially the week after, to hold myself accountable to actually eating enough. And so I can reacquaint myself with what it feels like to eat at maintenance. And that's kind of where the mental component comes in for me. I think that while by no means do I want to be tracking all the time, it can be really helpful for just understanding what it feels like to eat an appropriate amount. So that's all I have to say about that. I am going to get some reading done that I didn't do earlier. I didn't spend my time reading like I normally do, so I'm going to take care of some of that and then go on either a little walk or a jog. And other than that, we'll probably pick back up at dinner time. Went on that little jog. I promised that I showered. I just put the same clothes back on, but I have my dinner here in front of me. We've got some baked Yukon Gold potatoes, arugula, and of course our pork that I cooked in the Instant Pot. So I'm gonna eat this up. We're gonna head out to our little Bible study, and I'm gonna end the video here. Thanks so much for watching. Y'all know the drill. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, just let me know. But until next time, bye y'all.